Alright, picture this, a dusty checkpoint in the thick of the Iraq War. Our heroes, an American military squad, are holding the line. Out of nowhere, a car barrels towards them, guns blazing. These aren't your everyday commuters, they're Iraqi rebels with a serious disdain for stop signs. The squad's leader, Command Sergeant Brandon, isn't about to let them just zoom past. He orders a high-octane chase through the winding streets. The rebels aren't only ahead, they're above. Suddenly, gunfire rains down from the rooftops. Boom! A rocket-propelled grenade sends one of the squad's jeeps sky high, a stark reminder of the day's specials, chaos and destruction. As if that's not enough, another grenade makes an explosive entrance on a nearby civilian car. It's like fireworks, but with a lot more paperwork. Despite the dangers, our soldiers' spirits are high as they navigate through this live-action blockbuster. Stay tuned, it's about to get even crazier in that alley ahead. During a fierce encounter, boom! A blast rocks the vicinity, and amidst the chaos, Soldier Tommy is snugly near a vehicle. Suddenly, like a superhero from the comics, Rico dives over Tommy, shielding him from the blast. Alas, his heroics come with a price as he suffers severe burns all over. Without missing a beat, Brandon dashes to Rico's rescue, dragging him to a safer spot down an alley while the gunfight rages on. Just then, amidst the frenetic gunplay, zap! Another soldier, Preacher, takes a bullet, with severe wounds to his neck and jaw. Tommy, seeing his buddy in distress, zips to his side, only for Preacher to tragically pass away in his arms. Talk about a heart-wrenching twist. As the rebels continue their relentless barrage, Sergeant Steve, in a spur of hot pursuit, trails a rebel right into a house. What he finds is shocking: dead civilians caught in the crossfire. In a moment of intense loyalty, Brandon hightails it into the house to assist his longtime friend and comrade, Steve. The sight that greets them, both haunting and grim, is a harrowing reminder of the day's brutalities.
Now, here's a tale that'll grip you. After barely escaping a fierce ambush, Brandon, with heroics in tow, helps his buddy Steve stagger out of a perilous situation. Sadly, it wasn't all roses, as the clash claimed the lives of 3 brave soldiers and left another in a critical state. Back in their Texan hometown, the duo's return sparks a grand old parade and a heartwarming reception, the crowd absolutely buzzing. But the real cause for cheer? They made it back alive. Cut to a cozy local pub, the scene of a small yet spirited welcome back bash. Drinks flowing and spirits high. Steve, a bit on the tipsy side, dives into war stories. Here he goes, recounting their gritty showdowns, a bit clueless to the shifting moods around him. Undeterred, he dreams aloud about joining the snipers, eyeing some form of vengeance against the Iraqi rebels. Later that night, amidst the echoes of the party, a phone rings. It's Michelle, Brandon's old pal, checking in. Oh, the drama unfolds.
And there you have it, folks. In a whirlwind of worry, Brandon speeds to their house to find Steve, not planting petunias, but excavating like he's back on the battlefield. Despite Brandon's attempts at communication, Steve is all systems go, tunneling into his own world, clearly grappling with a PTSD flare-up. Inside, it's chaos central, furniture flipped, decor disrupted. Michelle, with a story mirrored in the mess, spills that Steve, tanked up and tangled in war flashbacks, mistook their cozy abode for enemy territory. Then, in a plot twist, Brandon clocks a bruise on Michelle. A teary tell-all follows. Turns out, it was an accident amid Steve's skirmish with imaginary foes. As they hash it out, a glance outside reveals Steve, conked out in his DIY foxhole, clutching his gun like a teddy bear. What a night, huh?
Just as the day breaks, Tommy barrels into town, crashing his car into a tree. Poor guy's been kicked out by his wife, Jay, thanks to his booze habit. Pouring his heart out to Brandon, Tommy's plans are clear. He's off to sulk in their old cabin outside town. So, what's a squad to do? Brandon, ever the friend, pitches a getaway for the gang to unwind. Fast forward to the next day, the crew's out at the cabin, and Tommy? He's found solace in blasting his wedding gifts to smithereens, while Shorty orchestrates the destruction with dramatic readings from the gift cards. Imagine the scene. A hungover Steve jolted awake by the blasts, tumbling out a car trunk looking like he's just survived a bear attack. The squad can't help but crack up as Steve, maybe a touch grumpy, line up his own wedding gift and, boom, there it goes. As dusk falls, Brandon pulls Steve aside. It's time for a heart-to-heart, but with these guys, it's anyone's guess what's next.
So, there's Steve with a mysterious bruise on his face. Classic, walked into a door, excuse, right? But sharp-eyed Brandon isn't buying it for a second. He dives straight in and confronts Steve about hitting Michelle. Steve, caught like a deer in headlights, admits he can't even recall the event. Picture this. 1 minute he's partying at the pub, and the next, he's waking up in the trunk of Tommy's car. Talk about a wild night gone wrong. Brandon isn't messing around though, and he delivers a stern warning to Steve about shaping up. Fast forward to the next day and they're all back to military life. Brandon's got this whole discharge plan worked up, passing the baton to Tommy, but just as he's ready to bow out, bam. Orders come in and he's being shipped back to Iraq. Now, Brandon, still reeling from the loss of his pals, is understandably not thrilled. He storms up to Lieutenant Colonel Boot to get some answers, only to learn he's caught in the web of the military's stop-loss policy. Surprise, soldier, this drama never ends. Phew, hold on to your hats because Brandon's story is straight out of a blockbuster. So, here's the scoop. Brandon, our brave squad leader, finds out the president's issued an order that basically says, no soldier gets to chill at home just because their time's up. Now, Brandon's not having any of it. He goes full rebel mode and throws some serious shade at the president. Fast forward to a showdown with his boss, Boot, who's fuming by now, and tells Brandon he's still got to toe the line and follow orders. But guess what? Brandon's defiance meter hits the roof, and he flat out says, nope. Boot's like, that's it, buddy. You're off to military lockup. But our man isn't one to go down without a fight. En route to prison, Brandon channels his inner escape artist, breaks free, and bolts. He jumps into a car, hits the road, and then, plot twist, phones his buddy Steve from somewhere off the grid.
Crazy day, huh? He tells Steve, laying down his AWOL master plan. Steve, trying to be the voice of reason, is like, dude, seriously? Might want to rethink this. He suggests smoothing things over with Boot, but come on, we all know Brandon's not about that backtrack life.
Just when Brandon thought he could sneak back home, the town sheriff was already there waiting, like a scene straight out of a Wild West showdown. He rolls up and, boom, drops the bomb that Boot's not just a little miffed, but has launched a full-blown, statewide manhunt for Brandon. Talk about overkill, right? And there's the sheriff, all solemn, urging Brandon's parents to just have him surrender and face the music. After the sheriff tips his hat and leaves, Brandon lays it all out for his folks and Michelle. He's got a plan, a wild one: take this mess to a senator. His dad's not exactly thrilled, worried about rattling the military's cage. But Brandon's not having any of it. He's determined. So, what do? They head straight for Washington, D.C. Michelle jumps in the driver's seat, partners in crime, right? Along the way, because you can't have a road trip without a little drama, they pull over and grab a room for the night. Just your typical await the military sleepover. Imagine this: Brandon's lounging by the pool when, bam, he sees someone drowning. In a wild dash, he dives in to save them, only to find out, it's just a stress-induced hallucination. No actual drowning. Talk about an adrenaline rush for nothing. Meanwhile, the plot thickens the next morning as Brandon and Michelle have to duck and hide because, oh no, here come the cops. They're sniffing around for our duo. At the same time, poor Tommy is begging Boot for another shot at being the world's best soldier, promising to up his game. Cut to Steve, who's had quite the night trying to bail Tommy out from a dewy mess. He's on the phone with Brandon, frustrated that Brandon, the squad leader, is mere when chaos strikes. But wait, there's more. Brandon throws another curveball, announcing he's off to Washington, D.C. to chat with the senator. Steve's not just furious, he's worried sick about Brandon and Michelle's safety. But fear not, Brandon plans to keep Michelle safe by dropping her off before he hits the road. He assures Steve he'll be back in no time. Later that night, as a bonus twist, Brandon and Michelle make a pit stop to visit Preacher's family, bringing some warmth to their thrilling escapade. In a twist straight out of an action movie, Brandon bravely revisits the parents of his fallen comrades, earning heartfelt thanks despite the grim memories. As he and Michelle head back to their car, they find a shattered window, troubles brewing. Brandon decides to play detective and dashes into an alley where he confronts the troublemakers. Things escalate quickly as fists fly and a gun makes an appearance. But, fear not, Brandon's quick on his feet, disarming the gunman and rounding up the gang, like a scene from a Wild West flick. Just as Brandon's about to lay down some alley justice, Michelle swoops in to save the day, and possibly some lives, convincing him to let the law handle the rouges. The drama doesn't end there. The couple checks into a nearby hotel where Brandon meets a fellow AWOL buddy. Turns out, the senator's no help, leaving them to navigate the murky waters of life on the lam. Talk about a cliffhanger. Imagine this: there's Brendan, crafting a plan to forge discharge documents with the help of a lawyer. Not just that, he's eyeing a fresh start in Canada, new name, new life, the whole shebang. But wait, here comes Steve, marching in his uniform straight into their hotel room. Thanks to a tip-off from Michelle, he's there to haul Brendan back. And here's the twist: Steve's brokered a deal. If Brendan heads back to base within 14 hours, all charges vanish. Poof. But no, Brendan's not having it. He's fuming, accusing Steve of pulling strings without a nod from him. And the bombshell? Steve's resigned himself up for another tour in Iraq. Poor Michelle is left reeling. Wedding bells were ringing in her ears, and now she's questioning everything. Despite Steve's assurances that they'll tie the North Post mission, she's just not buying it. Heartbroken and feeling betrayed, she calls it quits. Love, duty, betrayal, what a mix, right? Just as Steve and Tommy step outside, bam! Steve drops a bombshell about Tommy's tussle with the bottle. He's trying to reel Brandon back into the squad, saying everyone's crying for Brandon's lead. But no, Brandon isn't biting. He's all about how the war's got issues. Steve doesn't miss a beat, throws the hard truth at Brandon, no senator's rescue for a deserter, buddy. Cut to Brandon trying his luck with the senator's office anyway, but gets the cold shoulder. Ouch, tagged as a fugitive now. Meanwhile, back at the bar, Tommy's hitting the sauce hard again. He's all fired up to see his wife Jet, but Steve steps in, playing the wise guy. Nope, Tommy's not having any of it, tells Steve to mind his own beeswax. Steve, frustrated, just walks off. Switch scene, here's Brandon, with Michelle, checking in on Rico, the hero of the hour. Boy, did he pull a brave one.
Tommy's experience in Iraq serves up a hefty dose of reality. It's no summer camp, that's for sure. Rico, his buddy, truly faced the brunt of it. In the blink of an eye, Rico lost his right arm and leg, his eyesight, and even had severe burns to his face from the explosion. Talk about a rough day at the office. During their heart-to-heart, Rico spills the beans on the hospital horrors. The constant screams and intense nightmares from fellow veterans. Truly the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night. But wait, there's a twist. Despite the nightmare, Rico's somehow thankful. Yep, you heard that right. He's just glad he's out of the war zone. Flip the script to Brandon, who later confides in Michelle about the pandemonium on the battlefield. Oh, and he carries a heavy heart with loads of guilt over the loss of his comrades and, get this, accidentally harming innocent civilians. Heavy, right? Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Brandon gets the number of a lawyer from another AWOL soldier. The lawyer's advice? Meet up with a hefty $11,000 at a diner. So, what do Brandon and Michelle do? They auction off their car, switch to a bike, and scrape together the cash. Talk about an intense day in the life. So, picture this. The lawyer swings by, all serious, handing Brandon a fresh set of ids like they're straight out of a spy movie, right? And that's not all, there's a secret phone number too. One call and boom, a mysterious pickup is arranged. Cut to a gut-wrenching twist. Brandon finds out his buddy Tommy has tragically ended his life back at the forest cabin. Fast forward to the funeral, it's just Brandon and Tommy's grave, a moment of quiet goodbye. But wait, in swoops Steve, wrestling with guilt, sparking a showdown right there among the tombstones. The air's thick with grief and punches until Brandon, in a heart-thumping exit, leaves Steve in a heap of tears. Dramatic, right? Just days later, it's a tearful adieu with his dad as Brandon, his mom, and Michelle hit the road, driving into the unknown. Talk about a cliffhanger.